We are live. Hey, welcome to the HODL Review exclusively here on the chain. This is Jeff, and we are here to talk about the new norm of the global economic space, which is cryptocurrency, digital asset. There is a ton things going on in this space, and that's why we got to cover them all, because if we just focused on one side and we didn't understand the full dynamics, what was happening in the global space, all the different companies that are interacting, I think we'd be missing out. And since the cryptocurrency space or the digital asset space is quickly becoming the new norm, what does that mean? We're going to find out here. But before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit about coffee, because that's what we do when we start out here, especially as people are bouncing in and we're getting set up for this live stream. So we are going to be going over what's going on in Brazil. I want to talk about what China's Huawei company is doing with the government. Interesting stuff. We're going to talk about what's going on over at JPMorgan, because JPMorgan just sold some of their blockchain asset, and we want to find out what's going on over there. We're going to look at what Vitalik Buterin has been talking about regarding China, Iran, still in the news, all sorts of stuff going on. And then we also want to look at what is this, when we think about all of these central bank digital currencies, how does all of that, what does it mean? Does it really reflect what's going on in the digital asset space, in the cryptocurrency space? We're going to find all that out pretty soon. So we have got the show getting ready to be kicked off right now. Oh, there we go. Here we are. Awesome. Yo, David D, what is going on? You're watching the replay with Lionel, man. I really appreciate that. Was last week's roundtable. If you guys are just tuning in right now, if you're tuning in with us, like David D and Rod Hop and Bank XRP India, man, where are you from over in India? I've been over there about 4 times, pretty much every part of India, and it really great place. They call it. So, Tim Thornton, what is going on? So just a quick shout out for you guys bouncing in. If you've never been with us before, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs down. The key is that you're interacting. We like the thumbs up, and then what's great here is that we're here in the chat. We're here in the chat with Augusto Barbosa from Brazil. We've got Bank XRP from Chandigarh over in India. We've got David D and Rod Hop, and we are getting to we're going to kick this thing off. Also, what's today? Today's Saturday. I don't know, losing track of time. Tomorrow night, if you guys tune in at 8 p.m. on the roundtable, we are going to have Catherine Cooley on with us, who is the CEO of Binance USA. So I think that will be a good one for you guys to tune into. We're really excited about that interview. We've interviewed some really amazing CEOs of some exchanges over the past. So if you dig back through our videos, you can go back and check them out. So secure. Oh, there we go. Holy cow. I thought I was being banned for a second. So no notification, just cut you off. So what is great here about the on the chain community, really all of our subscribers and the comments that we get during these streams, and also the comments that we get after the stream. It's absolutely outstanding. We love engaging. We also have a Telegram channel, or channel, I guess it would be called. But if you go down below, you can link over to that. And then we can continue this conversation through the Telegram, and that's great too. So David D. Catherine Cooley is a rock star, real hands-on CEO, and they just cleared Florida. That's right, exactly. They just cleared Florida. So Binance US will be in Florida, around 40 states right now. We always have to be very, aware of the exchanges that we're working on, and we have people from all over the world. So we've got Brazil represented right now. We've got the UK, we've got India, we've got the US. Soon we're gonna have more people bouncing in. I'm sure we'll have some viewers here tuning in from Australia and all other parts of the world. But if you look at some of these exchanges like Binance is a global exchange. Binance US. Obviously, with the US, it's the US version of Binance. So there are a lot of different exchanges out there that we engage with. And we want to make sure that when we're on the exchange, we have to make sure that it adheres to all of the rules and regulations of the space that we're in, of the state that we're in, the country, and when whatever. Tim, all the way in from Thailand. So welcome. Good to have you here with us. Let's see, where are we going to get started? Since we've got Augusto Barbosa in here with us from Brazil, why don't we start talking about what's going on over in Brazil? Because here we have, and this is just recently, we look at one of the things that we look at in terms of this new norm, getting the digital asset space or the cryptocurrency space into mainstream. So what is one of the things that we always talk about? Regulation, regulatory clarity. And in order for there to be some sort of regulatory clarity, there also has to be some sort of an international standard when it comes to regulation. Every country has to think for themselves. However, if it is going to become the new norm, then that means there has to be a global understanding and recognition of what the digital asset will be, what the cryptocurrency space will be. So obviously all these countries that are delving into the central bank digital currencies, those are centralized digital currencies. The majority of them are not building them on the blockchain, or if they are, they're building them on a private blockchain that allows the government to maintain, or the central bank to maintain, full centralized control over that digital asset. However, as that's happening, we are seeing this new norm of the acceptance of digital assets around the world. So you've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, like Augusto is talking about. We got the XRP Chainlink has come out and really has been making a big impact and making waves. Then obviously we know about XLM and Stellar, and the list goes on and on and on and on. I'm not going to sit here and list all of them. You guys know what they are. But if we go down to countries like Brazil overall, and I'm sure Augusto can definitely vouch for this, but Brazil is an extremely difficult country to actually work in from outside of Brazil. So let's say you wanted to bring a product down to Brazil, not very easy to do. So unless you have the right registrations, you have to go through a lot of hoops. The one thing that Brazil focuses in on is indigenous built product. So they want to put their stamp on it. They want to put their made in or assembled in Brazil stamp on whatever goes down there. Now, as it comes to the digital asset space, are they going to be able to do that with XRP or money? Probably not. However, what Brazil can do is put their stamp on regulation. Now, right now, Brazil overall does not really have much regulatory clarity or even that much conversation over regulation. And so now what we are seeing, and this just came out on August 25th. So let me see if I can find who this woman is. Okay, here she is. Senator Soraya Thronic. She is a member of Brazil's Social Liberal Party. Not going to get into politics. We could dig into that on a different channel. But what she is pushing for is she's pushing for, or at least outlined specific rules for this virtual asset businesses, custodians, issuers, consumer protections, crypto taxation, criminal enforcement, and industry oversight in Brazil. So there's this great article that was on CoinDesk, written by Danny Nelson, that went over this in depth. I thought overall, he's definitely bringing up some really key points as to what's going on over there. Because as we look around the world, there's still some, especially at the government level, a little bit of resistance or hesitation to the acceptance of digital asset as a norm. Because even in the US, if you look at the Bitcom, Maxine Waters, that doesn't really understand even how to use her cell phone, but yet somehow she's the one responsible for then deciding on the fate of these regulations as they come through. They come through, her, or come across her desk, or through her committee. So we have to, and it's interesting because without this clarity and having the brighter minds understand it and spoon feed it to those government officials in the US, anywhere else in the world, we have to remember these are people that are politicians, most of them lawyers, most of them don't understand economics. That's clear. Most of them definitely don't understand technology. It's very clear. So now how do you get a lawyer to understand the dynamics of what a digital asset is and take them beyond the idea that these digital assets are not a pyramid scheme that's used by the nefarious purposes of the underworld? So you need to have some clarity on it. And when they get clarity, they read it and they're like, oh, okay, I understand. It says clarity. Oh yeah, I get it now. We have a little bit of regulation on this. Now I can accept it. But that's what these lawyers need. Lawyers are very, narrowly focused sometimes on how they understand things. And so it needs to be presented in such a way that they understand it. Now, once you get that regulatory clarity, I don't mean to insult any lawyers, but my point is that, from a legal perspective, they focus on, they'll focus on the narrow, concepts of the law. They don't really operate too far outside. They try to manipulate or work within that structure. Whereas if you think about, other areas, if you're in sports, or you're pushing yourself to the limit, if you're, in science, you're always trying to find other mechanisms and trying to invent something new. Within law, you don't have that option because it's already outlined for you. So kind of like the rules of a game. If you go to any game, a sport game, there's rules and you have to operate within those rules. So it's very narrowly focused. You understand what you're supposed to do. When the whistle's blowing, you understand that you're kicking the ball from this side to that side. You have to get in the net. That's exactly why you need regulatory clarity in this space with digital assets, because we need to get it from here to there, and we have to understand the mechanisms in place to understand that. So I know there's a lot of new people that have been on our channel. There's a lot of new people that have been engaging and joining and commenting. So it's really important, kind of as we go backwards, through a lot of this, we're going to try to break it down and get a better understanding of all of this. So what is up, one rough Rican, Bob Grattan, all the way in here from Montreal. That is fantastic, man. I love Montreal. Great place, great city. You've got the Church of Notre Dame over there, which is really nice. And just down the block, there's a sushi restaurant not too far from there. Outstanding sushi. And then if I can remember the names of these restaurants, I would. But there's a steakhouse in Montreal. You go in, the ceilings are like 6 feet high, and it looks like, straight out of history when you walk there, but you can't find it. There's a red light on the side of a building that designates where this steakhouse is, and if you didn't know that it was there, you would never be able to find it. That's crazy. So all right, Augusto Barbosa, let's see, the central bank in Brazil, here we go. The central bank in Brazil will work with two financial systems, an internal system called PIX for payments 24/7, and and are looking for systems like Ripple for international remittance. That's awesome. So one thing that we're seeing across the board, in every country, is that they're looking for a method for faster payments. We have the faster payments for the US. We hear about it in Australia, you hear about it in Europe, now for Latin America and Brazil. But faster payments are important. And then you have to worry about cross-border payments. Can everything operate on the blockchain? What is going to be centralized control? What is going to move outside of the centralized control of the central banks? I think that's where we're going to get this understanding, because once you get that regulatory clarity that's put in place over the digital asset space, over the cryptocurrency space, then it also opens up, like, with Ripple. Ripple is a phenomenal solution for cross-border payments, for international remittance, moving money from country to country. Does not necessarily fully utilize the XRP token, which is native in the ecosystem that they've built the RippleNet solution on. However, there is some note that through this ODL, which is the on-demand liquidity, ODL is now utilizing, I believe, about 20% of the ODL transactions are now XRP. I think I got that right. And so that, I think that's important now, or 20% are using the ODL. The ODL needs to use XRP. So, it's really important to see, the transition that's taking place from here to there, as we're moving towards mainstream adoption of the crypto space, as we're moving towards what's necessary, which is regulatory clarity within government. And now that's good and bad, so let's look at the bad side. Before we go to the bad side, let's take a quick coffee break. If you guys are drinking coffee, give it a shout out. Let me know what you guys like. I love espresso. Today we're drinking Segfredo, and the Segfredo is awesome. It's a good Italian brand, and it's got all the right flavors. It's outstanding. There we go. All right. Lionel, what is up? Lionel coming in here from Periscope, watching over on Twitter. Very nice. Very nice. So, all right. So now we've talked a little bit about the good. David, before I get to your comment here, let's look at the bad. Okay. So now we have some good of moving forward towards clarity. Now let's look at some bad. Here we go. I gotta pull this up. Let me cancel this. Let me share my screen on this one, because I think this one is worthy of bad. Let me see here. Share screen. Application window, tab, boom. There we go. All right. Iran shuts down 1,100 illegal Bitcoin miners. Whistleblowers are rewarded $2,400. So does the country have their right to control, manage, whatever you want to do? What is their definition of an illegal Bitcoin miner? Is Bitcoin not allowed in Iran? Iran has been trying to circumvent the system by creating their own system. However, what they're really focused in on here is the fact that these is that they're focused on power generation. So look, Iran's power generation, distribution, and transmission company has reportedly shut down 1,100 illegal Bitcoin mining farms in the country. So the reason why there's so many of them, obviously people want Bitcoin. The other part is to have a little bit of normalcy. People want to move away from, what's going on within the economy over in China, similar to why people were fleeing, why $50 billion worth of digital currency left China over this past year. Now the question is where, who and where it's going. Was it Chinese government? The Chinese government does control quite a bit over there, and we're going to get into that as well, because we need to look at the good and the bad of the digital asset blockchain space. And again, understanding why we need a new norm for international regulatory clarity, not just domestic regulatory clarity. So Here we have since 2019. This is on Bitcoin.com. I think he did a pretty good job here. The writer of pulling out some decent facts. But here you have the Islamic Republic has issued 624 mining farm permits. But some of the licensed farms are idle. Last month, Iranian Vice President Jahangiri said that all miners will soon be required to register with the government. Of course, they want you to register with the government because they want their cut. Now, it's amazing because here we have rioters in the streets of America right now, and they're proclaiming things that aren't factual. And here you have real, you have real control across the spectrum. Zero freedoms, complete political control. You have no very, very limited freedoms. You can be dragged away and you can be turned in by, what do we call them? Oh, yeah, whistleblowers. A country that turns you in not just because you have a Bitcoin mine, you're mining Bitcoin in your back bedroom, and you're going to be turned in for $2,400, probably go to jail, probably never get heard from ever again. Not sure exactly. You can never know in a country like that. So it's really dangerous. Now, Iran has cheap electricity. That's great. So that's why they're saying it's pulling Bitcoin miners from all over, from the Ukraine and China. People want to go to where the electricity is cheap. It's cheap over there because they also are able to pull a lot of gas, and they have a big gas production or oil production. Now their electricity is significantly cheap. I mean, if you look at this, a penny per kilowatt hour. Or here you have rates increased fourfold to 5 cents a kilowatt hour during the hotter months. So it's interesting though, because obviously again the government wants to make sure they're getting their part of it, but it's disconcerting when you know what goes on in that country. That people are trying to really look after their own finances. However, if you're having all these other countries that are also coming in to take advantage of another country's freedom, and in this case, Iran's freedom is in the cost of their electricity. So when you have a country like Ukraine and China, now of course they're not. If you have miners coming in from other countries to set up in another country, like in China to Iran, obviously they're not coming in to set up in someone's bedroom and setting up one tiny little mine. They're probably taking over a warehouse and they're putting in a huge mine. And the question is, are they operating on their own, or are they operating with the backing of the government, whether it's from Ukraine or China or elsewhere? So there's a lot of things that are tied into this. So again, the good and the bad. I look at it, hey, if everything was equal, everything was perfect in a perfect world, companies and people could go to Iran and say, hey, you know what, your electricity per kilowatt hour is cheap. Hey, it's awesome, we're going there. And they say, hey, it's fantastic, we want you here. And by the way, we have freedom for all people here. And we're not going to have whistleblowers down the street that are eavesdropping and snooping around. They're going to turn you in for, a measly $2,400 and disrupt your future and potentially have you put in some prison that you'll never be heard from again. So that's the reality of what goes on, the good and the bad, and also, as we know, within the government, of Iran, we want to understand exactly, what their objectives are, because we've seen, already, in Iran, they're trying to circumvent certain sanctions over, their country by, shipping gas down to Venezuela. Oh, by the way, another problematic country that is also attempted to circumvent the global standards. Now, people could look at it and say, oh, well, how is that fair that the world is picking on a country like Iran? Why is it, the rest of the world's responsibility to do that, whether it's from an economic or political perspective? But when you have a country with state-sponsored terrorism, the largest financier of terrorist organizations in the world, terrorist organizations that are going to purposely kill and maim civilians. That's what Iran does. And so why do we have an issue with that? Why do we have an issue with Iran developing a nuclear weapon? Why are they trying to establish themselves, even them, within the centralized digital asset space that do trade with China or Venezuela or North Korea? I think it becomes very obvious the good and the bad, right? And we need to, kind of focus and, understand those different dynamics. I think is really important. But let me bounce back up here. So, thank you very much. I see here Rough Rican with a $4 super sticker. Appreciate that a lot. That's awesome. Oh, check this out, man! Black Rifle coffee, fantastic. I was gonna have some Black Rifle this morning, and I grabbed the Segfredo. But man, that's outstanding, man. I'm glad that you got that. Let me just give a shout out. Let me know how you think it is. Got Mike Kegley bouncing in here so early. It is early on a Saturday morning, and we're sitting here talking about global politics and everything else. Just a ton of stuff to discuss here. So, all right, let me just go back up. Oh, what can possibly be the bad? I don't know. Banning BTC in Iran and other countries will just increase demand for those currencies in those countries. I agree 100%. The whole point of those countries embracing the digital asset to begin with and embracing Bitcoin is because their own currency isn't stable. They don't have confidence in their own government's economy. Look at what happened over in Lebanon with the run on the banks, because there were a lot of irregularities within how they were managing their economy from a government perspective and the central bank perspective. So if you think about that, here's a country like Lebanon, which has been war-torn for years and years and years. They finally rebuild, and then they're suffering again because of these irregularities in their regular legacy banking structure. Of course, people want to go to Bitcoin. Venezuela, with their 1,000,000% inflations, they're looking for a place to create a little bit of stability, and they also want to, they want to maintain a little bit of self-reliance. They want to, take the measures away from the government that's all controlling. So let me see here. Here we go. Where were we? David D had a comment, and now I meant to go back to it. I might have buried it. What is up, Chip? What is going on? Okay, where'd it go? Gavin Williams, what's going on? XRP, the global standard, Starlink satellites and space chain satellites. That's a crazy conversation to have. I know that you put that comment up there like 20 minutes ago, but I'm a little questionable on what's been going on with the satellite from a satellite perspective. But I don't, it's interesting. I was looking at that. I got to do more research into that one because it's a group that is, full real world utility, putting satellites up in space. I think that could be interesting. But that's a topic that we definitely should bring up and talk about. I'll make a note of that, and we'll dig into it a little bit further. So let me see. China just released their just released DCEP. I'll have to look at that. Hang on. All right, so we got Gavin Williams here. Jeff, is it true that SWIFT and DLT will run parallel of each other in financial world? Also, what's your view on Starlink? There it is, the Starlink and space chain satellites using blockchain tech running nodes. Yeah, so let's address this one component, because it kind of fits into what we're talking about right now, which is SWIFT and another system running parallel to each other. I believe at this point they kind of are running parallel to each other, only because are they running through SWIFT? not really. Swift has been trying to get into and roll out their own solution. Are they going to work through R3? What exactly is going to happen when it comes to Swift? However, we're in a competitive space right now. So whereas Swift is no longer the only one, they're not the only game in town. Swift has competition, and that competition is coming from RippleNet. So are they operating, in parallel? They are operating in parallel at this moment. So you have RippleNet, and then you have Legacy, Swift. Now, can Swift jump on board? I think what we're going to start seeing, our banks are going to realize that Swift isn't doing it for them. And so are they going to run in parallel? I think they might still utilize Swift because there's still going to be a lot of banks around the world that might not have jumped yet from the legacy solution. So from a user perspective, I'm just kind of putting my opinion on this, just from how things operate within a business space. But if you're looking at platform interoperability, the Swift solution was a communication protocol. So if you have a bank in Nairobi that hasn't moved over to RippleNet yet, and we're trying to send the money from Brazil over to Nairobi, how are we going to do that on RippleNet if the bank over in Nairobi is only using Swift? So, in order to facilitate, like you said, in parallel, I think banks will be using that solution until all banks embrace the full protocol. Now, banks, if the central banks around the world are embracing their digital currency, that means that the legacy concept is diminishing, and it's going to be diminishing quicker and quicker and quicker because people are going to now have to exchange through their digital currency. So if China's rolling out their digital currency, let's look this one up. China digital currency. I've got quite a bit to talk about it. Let's see if they've done everything. But so China is gearing up. We've talked about their testing of their digital currency over the past couple of weeks. They're expanding beyond their test cities, right? They have test cities where they can roll things out and try it out. And if it doesn't work in that test city, they shut it down, and they didn't impact the rest of their community. China likes to do live things like that, in the field. So in this scenario, then you look at, so China rises up and they have their central bank digital currency. Are they going to be able to transact now on Swift? Probably not, because Swift is a legacy protocol that's just communication. However, we know that since the digital yuan is going to be centralized, it's going to be in its own little walled garden. It's not going to have interoperability baked into it. China is going to try to bring their solution regionally and potentially globally at first regionally, because they want to dominate and dictate the direction of what's happening regionally, especially through their Belt and Road Initiative that they have, which is to increase China's influence on the economies of countries within Asia. So they want to displace the power of the U.S. dollar or the euro and their impact on the regional economies, and allow China to step in. And it's interesting because through the Belt and Road Initiative, again, good and bad, it sounds good because their objective is also to help rebuild or build some of those communities up by facilitating, a flow of finances. So you look at it and say, that's great. The bad side of it is that you have a communist country that's looking to control that initiative. So nothing is free, right? They're going to give, but they're going to take, and their take is going to be a lot bigger than their give. So let's see here. Where'd it go? I had some. Sirdan, what is up? Kelly Slade, good morning. Here we go. Global regulatory clarity is needed, and the U.S. is key to get banks and financial institutions in to get the institutional money in the crypto ecosystem. Once that happens, we will see ecosystem market cap in trillions. I agree with that 100%. That's exactly the direction that we're moving in, right? So We need regulatory clarity in order for more banks to get involved. We need regulatory clarity for more financial institutions to get involved. Can we be very country centric and say that a lot of it has to do with what goes on in the US? I think just based on the reality of the economies of the world, we have to understand that the US has been a very large part of the backbone of the global economy. From a financial world perspective and a banking perspective, a good percentage of the banks and the regulations over banking space has to do with what goes on in the US. Obviously, what goes on over in Europe, has a big impact as well, in some of these discussions, as well as in Asia. So, there's definitely, a lot of things that are, that are going on. And so, yes, we need that regulatory clarity. Once banks and financial institutions bring that kind of money into this space, I mean, it's amazing. And we're starting to see it, right? We're starting to see them little by little getting involved in it. Even JPMorgan, and this is a sidetrack that we're going to get into here in a minute, but JPMorgan just sold their Quorum blockchain solution to ConsenSys and then bought a piece of ConsenSys. Or invested a big chunk in ConsenSys. So, that to me is really understanding, really important to understand. So, yes, sending up rockets all the time. Here we go. Here's Morton, brings up. So Starlink basically, yes, storage, switches, CPUs on satellites with a Linux distro, Amazon Web Service in space. They will sell services to anyone who wants to run software. Or I think that, to me, that's a great solution. Now it's kind of like, so decentralized storage, I believe, is definitely going to be a thing of the future. So if you can have decentralized storage, it helps secure your data. Decentralized storage like SiaCoin had been attempting. I had followed SiaCoin. I bought the SiaCoin tokens way back. You could set up your server. You could do all this stuff to be part of the solution. So the SiaCoin, they take your file and it gets broken up into little bits and it gets stored on, throughout their network. So the reassembly of those packages, if someone, got into one part of the network, they're not going to have complete files because those files are broken up. I don't know that Starlink is based on the same. I would assume that it would be. I do like the concept that things are moving up, which also can allow, more access because, if you have satellites like Elon Musk with his idea of bringing, high-speed internet to the communities at large, there's a lot of places in the world that don't have access to proper high-speed internet, which we think, hey, that's crazy. We're streaming at, 350 down and, 25 plus the 30 up. And some parts of the world, are struggling. They barely have, a fraction of that, if at all. And so through the satellite structure, because you don't have the infrastructure necessarily to bring it to those communities. However, through a satellite, you can bring that. Through handheld devices, you can bring that. And so I think that as we move in kind of that direction, it allows you access to your data no matter where you are, and improves the quality and reception away from towers. And so your phones then work more efficiently, and it allows you to keep a lot of your data, since your data streams are a lot faster and available all over. It's also going to allow you to keep most of your stored data in the cloud environment, which is kind of the direction it's moving in. So yeah, from that perspective, I do like, kind of how that work. Create that in a decentralized environment. It's a solution. If you're holding that, if you're looking at projects as an example, we always talk about, utility, functionality. There's projects out there that have no purpose. And then there's projects out there that are actually trying to create or solve a problem. So you have solutions without problems that are looking for problems. And then you have solutions that are actually solving problems. And Starlink could be one of those projects. Again, we have to dig into it deeper. I don't know enough about it. I'm just talking about from a surface perspective, just kind of just the outer understanding. Let's see. So space chain is bringing blockchain and cryptos up in space, bringing up to the space station and beyond, to Mars. That's also going to be important because let's say we 10 years from now, right? 15 years from now, 20 years from now, they decide to put a colony on the moon. You put the colony on the moon, you also need to have, satellite-based communication that's going to be fast. So we can't, rely on antiquated legacy communication from the moon. There still has to be transactions happening. So that's going to be interesting as well. And now you put a colony on the moon, that means that you're going to have constant flow of people. People are working. People need to shop up there, whatever. I don't know. So you got to think ahead. I don't know if that's where these guys are going. They're focused mostly down on Earth, but the movement of everything, which will be important. Now, where would it go? Wait here. So Clint said Starlink will run on XRP nodes, preventing there never being the financial system being shut down. Another good perspective, if this is the case, if they're facilitating the nodes, yes. And that's also going to be, I think, a very important aspect where if you want to step away from the burden of can you shut down somebody's economy by somehow attacking these nodes, if it goes to a satellite, does that help? Can you put satellite killers into space like Russia and China have been testing out satellite killers, shooting down satellites? You enter into a whole new era at this point. A good reason why the U.S. military now has a division called the Space Force in order to protect what is happening from outside, right? You got to protect that. So that becomes really important. Yeah, this is good stuff. So let's see. Been running a storage node for a little over a year. Blockchain is the next evolution of distributed computing, cloud 3.0. I like this. I like the sound of that. These are great topics. These are great things to really dig into. Mike, appreciate that, bringing that comment up. I think that's really important. Let's see. Doug, SEC has had years to answer 6 questions. Brian Brooks, bank custody announcement has got to be all the clarity needed. Any other undetermined regulations or regulators, so let's say regulators had to know that the announcement was to be made. Yeah, so there's so much. It's amazing. There's so much going on. Okay. So let's see, we were kind of going through the world. We got into Iran, what was happening over there. I thought this was kind of important, interesting, not sure important, but Vitalik from Ethereum had put out a statement that China's consortium chains may not be trusted internationally. And so here you have the progress, and this, I'm just going to quote from this article real quick from Cointelegraph. The progress of the Chinese government and large enterprises in the blockchain space is impressive. However, according to Ethereum co-founder Vitalik Buterin, they may need to do more than just deploy and build on private or semi-private consortium blockchains to gain traction internationally, and also to gain trust internationally. That wasn't there. I'm kind of adding that, but he goes through it because he said in an international context, you cannot assume that there is even a single government that everyone trusts, whereas public blockchains are more easily perceived as being neutral. And that's a good point. So if China's in control of a consortium and they have centralized control over it, there's going to be a lot of concern, over what China's intent is and what they're doing from a government perspective, not just regulating, but controlling it through centralized control. So I think that's definitely a key point to bring up. Here we have, and this goes back into that exact conversation, but Huawei, the electronics company over in China, builds a blockchain platform, get this, to help Beijing government manage the people's data. So here you have again, and it borders on that conversation of trust. Now, is that a bad thing? Because are we going to have blockchain entities that are going to build? So in this scenario, like in the U.S., do you want blockchain to run and operate monitoring uh, data, tax, personal data, your healthcare data, your medical records. From a voting perspective, managing where you live, where you don't live, making sure that you have one vote per person, and you cut down on the possible of corrupt elections for multiple votes coming from the same person, or fake votes because it goes through a registered system, a complete federally regulated database, whether it's in China, the US, the UK, Europe, whatever, it doesn't matter. Can you enter into that phase and then have a reliance and trust on the government? We're just talking about trust, but here you have Huawei. So this was on CoinDesk, good article, but Chinese tech conglomerate Huawei has set up a blockchain-based platform for the Beijing government to better track and manage its citizens' data and everything from medical records and property registration to real-time vehicle parking status. So obviously, when you get into a centralized communist controlled country, yes, they want to track your real-time vehicle parking status. They want to know where you are at all times. They're managing their data. Right. So here we're basically saying that it's everything, every aspect of you. If you're walking around, they're monitoring, they're tracking. They're going to have a good blockchain system that will know where you are, where you've been, and report it. Who knows what kind of AI they put in there? Who knows? Now it's going to then the blockchain will take this data and will weave its way into your banking. How much money you have in your bank, how much money you spent, when you go to work, when you leave work, when your kids are in school. It's going to, that to me is what the overall objective is, what your status is on your social media platform, how that's now going to impact everything else in your credit world, your credit life. There's certain things that the government should have zero access to in order to maintain the freedom, of the citizens of that country, which is the struggle. However, the government should have zero idea of where your vehicle is at any given time. That isn't something that factors in. They shouldn't know whether you're home or at work. That's not the government's right. Now, in China, apparently, that is, that's their objective. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to see, et cetera. So good and bad, right? But it's interesting. This is a project that they're building on, and it kind of goes in a really, really interesting direction. So let's see. Check it out. We got Alex Yeet popping in here. Welcome. Good to see you. Here we go. So Vitalik spent months on Stephen Thomas, former CTO of Ripple, couch while Vitalik was applying as an intern for Ripple. They discussed smart contracts. Unfortunately, he did not get a work permit in the U.S. and built it elsewhere. Yep. So that's what happens. That is how life goes. So all right. So where were we? What did we just talk about? We talked about Huawei. Now let's get back into what happened with JPMorgan, because this is the development of the space. This is kind of like the mainstream adoption of what's going on. And so when we see mainstream adoption, when we see a company like JPMorgan that has been very, very standoffish, initially, we saw Jamie Dimon talking about how bad Bitcoin was, and he was upset if his daughter had one. And, there's a track record here over the past couple of years of him being very outspoken against. However, at the same time you're outspoken against, JPMorgan, as we know, tried to roll out their own JPM coin. I don't know. We haven't heard anything about it since, probably unsuccessfully. They're trying to create a very centralized blockchain digital token environment that was only going to be used within their bank and their partners. So very, very centralized, walled garden, no way to really transact that token to anyone outside of their network. I don't know, I haven't heard anything about it. It's kind of just died out. So, but here you have what's interesting. So you have ConsenSys bought. So ConsenSys acquires JPMorgan's Quorum blockchain. Now, if you don't know ConsenSys, so here's ConsenSys. So ConsenSys is interesting because let's see here. Let's see. So ConsenSys, now it's ConsenSys Quorum, but built on Quorum, the complete open source blockchain platform for business. It's a trusted open source foundation for your blockchain solution. Here it says, on just on their website, ConsenSys Quorum. Let me just, I'll pull this up. I think, yeah, this is interesting because not only did ConsenSys buy this Quorum from JPMorgan, but then JPMorgan invested back in it. Everything is kind of hush hush. Nobody knows exactly what the deal is. However, that's what happened. So it's really so here we go. So you go to the top, so you have ConsenSys, the Quorum that they bought. So the focus is on blockchain for business, open source, developing it for enterprises, leveraging Ethereum for their high value blockchain application. So here you have, again, an application of a digital asset and the digital asset platform for the smart contracts that are baked into a solution, this Quorum solution that's now ConsenSys Quorum, that was also developed by JPMorgan. So, multiple organizations are using a Quorum for developers, Quorum for enterprises. You can build on Quorum. So here you have right here, look, the acquisition for a JPM and opportunities. There's a lot of opportunity for business and enterprise. So as much as we saw JPMorgan speaking out against it, here we go. And now we see that, we're actually moving in a direction rapidly of mainstream adoption, because if you look at ConsenSys, what does ConsenSys do overall? Look at how many products and solutions within their their enterprise solution, all the different things that ConsenSys can offer and do. And, from a business perspective, an enterprise solution, and, enterprise wants to get into blockchain, but you can't reinvent the wheel. So now you have, these guys getting in and, and helping to facilitate it. They're building for the enterprise. Now, it's, again, interesting because JPMorgan has a part now of Quorum, or of ConsenSys, sorry. That's the trend, right? That's the direction that we're moving in. So here you have a bank that was very anti to being very involved in. Guess what direction we're moving in, right? We're moving in the right direction if that's the case. I think that's really really important. Diamond did an about face, knowing he could not put the genie back in the bottle. Exactly. He tried everything. He really tried. He really wanted to, but it didn't work out. What's up, Carl Lewis and BZ Comedy Channel? I'm glad you guys are both here with us live streaming. All right. That was JP. Come on, here we go. All right, here's another one. This was the Atlantic Council, and this article. It was kind of interesting because this was over this past week. Advanced economies under pressure in the central bank digital currency race. Why are they under pressure? Mainly because of China, right? China has been pushing very, very aggressively through 2020 over the past 6 months. So the world is focused. The entire world has been focused on this health hazard that's been circulating the world. China has been very focused on experimenting and rolling out their CBDC, their central bank digital currency, to really take a lead role. I mean, there's no other way to say it. That's their objective. They want to go fully digital. They want to, like we were just talking about with their what Huawei is doing with them, creating full control and observation status over their people, being involved and taking a lead role in the region through the Belt and Road Initiative, now controlling them financially if they utilize their CBDC, trying to push the US dollar back a notch by decreasing the US dollar influence in the region, again, through the Belt and Road Initiative. And then this is the most instrumental aspect of what their needs are, because the Belt and Road Initiative is about investment and support and having regions grow up and develop. Give and take. China gives you money, they expect something in return. China gives you this money, it doesn't matter what they want in return because you have no choice, they're going to take it, right? It's interesting. But now through this article, they really point out, it's not just China, and I think here they definitely point out some good stuff. They left out the Marshall Islands, the Bahamas, Bermuda, some of these smaller countries like the Marshall Islands and Bermuda have really been, pushing aggressively towards a digital asset-based economy. And that's a pure digital asset, not centralized. They're utilizing a good solution. We'll see how that all pans out. It's still kind of rolling, but here in this article, they point out Canada, the EU, Japan, Switzerland, the UK, Sweden. There's all these countries that are pushing towards some sort of a regulation in the space, seeing what kind of bump up, what's going on exactly. Here we have this is interesting. Let's see, the policy scape was, this is I think we can show this. Let me see. This is an interesting graph. Let me oops, how do we get out of this? How do we stop sharing this? Oh, stop screen. There we go. I don't know what I was thinking. You got to see this real quick, and then hang on a second. Where is it? There we go. All right, so check this out. It's interesting because policy risk kind of over time, talking about January of a year into July 31. But you look at the Libra proposal, what do they envision? Look at COVID, it's just interesting. You look at this graph, it kind of brings the COVID pandemic. Now he said it. Yeah, damn it. See, they suckered me in. Took its toll, as the data above indicates. However, activity levels have been increasing steadily throughout the summer among developed economies. So the movement and the focus on implementing instant payments, the Fed, China, there's such a rapid movement in this direction. However, and what was the focus here? Why are these economies under so much pressure in this rate? China's taking that lead. That's my opinion. They want to get there first. Who can get there first? Maybe they'll have a little bit of control. They're trying to unseat the US dollar as a reserve currency. I don't believe that it will. Definitely not in the near future. There's so much going on, to really understand it. Here you go. Reserve currency competition. Caution does not decrease the imperative to compete. So you still need to compete. The competition is actually healthy. Now, here we have a little bit of the decentralization. Libra is still out there, and Libra and Facebook have issued their caution of warning about what China is trying to do, with their version of the CBDC. So it's really important. But look, China may be the first to deploy at scale in its centralized economy, but speed is not the sole component required for success. Exactly, it doesn't necessarily mean the first one out there. And China, is definitely notorious for putting out solutions that sometimes need to be fixed after the fact. So hopefully they're not doing it with an economic means, but there's also a lot of currency manipulation, and they're not so far past. So a lot of interesting things. This article is great. As you kind of dig through it, I love looking at some of these graphs. They're just anyhow. So this is all important stuff. Again, as we start seeing how the blending of the political space, interacts with the economic space. Going back to what we first talked about, I know a lot of you guys kind of bounced in after we first talked about looking at the significance of regulatory clarity, country specific, as well as from a global perspective, to have global regulatory clarity in the interoperability or interaction of the different economies. So we need economic interoperability from one economy to another, one currency to another. RippleNet has an amazing solution from a banking perspective, creates the interoperability, creates the on-demand liquidity. Time's going to tell exactly how these countries start working as China creates the central bank digital currency, a digital yuan. The U.S. has a digital dollar. Brazil has the digital real, et cetera, et cetera. Mexico has the digital peso. However it starts developing, there still needs to be that interoperability and that connectivity to facilitate. That's why you need some of these other solutions. Going back to the other point, will we see Swift and DLT or Ripple or another solution operating in parallel? I believe they will for a time because people want to move out of legacy. People still need to transact between countries. It's all going to happen when you have regulatory clarity that allow more mainstream adoption. So that is awesome, man. This was a great talk today. Really appreciate you guys. 1 hour of global economics and the digital currency space early on a Saturday morning for those that are Central Time, Pacific Time, even on the East Coast. You guys tune in at 8 a.m. For you guys on the other part of the world, forget about it. You guys are already in the evening, but appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And tomorrow night roundtable, we are going to have a special guest, Catherine Cooley, CEO of Binance, with us on the roundtable tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So do your best. Make sure you guys are there. Bring a friend. Let's get 100, 150, 200 people, whatever number of people we can get. We had 45 people, right now 46 people on an early Saturday morning, 3 p.m. over where Cerdan is. So it's afternoon. Yeah, you guys are eating lunch. But anyhow, so again, tune in, go down below, check out the description. There is another channel that we have. Chip put out a fantastic video on the other channel. What was the title of his video? Flare to increase XRP utility and price. Go check it out. What in the world are we talking about over there? We're talking about Flare. Flare, the Spark token. What in the world is going on with this Spark token and an airdrop of a Spark token for every XRP that you have? I don't know. Chip's talking about all that stuff. Flare to increase the XRP utility and price? I don't know, but he might. So go check it out. You guys are outstanding. See you guys tomorrow night. Check out our other channel. We're going to have other videos out there. I've got some in the hopper that we're going to put out this week. And if not, I'm going to see you guys next week, next Saturday, bright and early, right here on the Auto Review, on the Roundtable, exclusively on the Roundtable. Have a great day.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.